A while ago, I put up a poll on my community tab asking the audience who defines who is black, white people or black people. The binary option in and of itself is problematic, but the empty comments section under the poll and the 50-50 vote results showed me that no one actually wanted to grapple with the question intellectually. I was reminded of this minor event of my online life when I saw that the South African pop star Tyla was going viral because of her recent interview on The Breakfast Club. For those who don't keep their thumb on the pulse of global black culture, the past few years have seen a plethora of African artists breaking into intercontinental markets, and contemporary African genres like amapiano and Afrobeat becoming the bedrock of pop music amongst the youth worldwide. One of those artists catapulted to global fame by riding the wave of interest on Afro sounds is the South African singer Tyla. Her breakout single, and the one most synonymous with her name, is the sultry Water, a simple yet sweet serenade that has a chorus so infectious and lyrics so seductive that Rihanna probably kicks herself for passing on the record, yet Beyoncé saw it as too easy of a hit to have and graciously gave the layup to a star on the rise. This is just my conjecture on the song. I cannot claim to know if either of those divas could have had it. Writing from memory, I believe I was honeymooning in either Kenya, Mauritius, or Tanzania when I first heard Water. Those were months when my wife and I were enveloped by the sounds of modern African music everywhere we went, willingly or not, as Afrobeat blasted out of the tuk-tuks, taxis, crowded buses, and sweaty clubs, then wafted up to and through the windows of our dingy week-long rentals in the early morning. Water was just one of those songs that melded into the tapestry of life with Afrobeat as the soundtrack, no worse or no better than any other hit of its time. I didn't think much more of it until I saw the accompanying music video. When I saw Tyla, this racially ambiguous siren, who couldn't have weighed more than 100 pounds soaking wet, gyrating on a Cape Town beach while singing in accentless English and dancing in styles reminiscent of Sierra in her heyday, I knew that a star was amongst us. While Diamond Platinums might be the king of the motherland and Burna Boy might reign supreme amongst the Nigerian diaspora, especially in the UK, Tyla's femininity and her nondescript look and sound would allow her to access markets that these very masculine, undeniably black men could not. There is a lot to be said about the world's collective Negrophilophobia, the fear yet simultaneous attraction to all things related to blackness. It has to be acknowledged that while the world might love Afrobeat and amapiano, the black people who create those sounds are still reviled, and no better proof of that are the countless bodies of Africans at the bottom of the Mediterranean due to Europe's cruel treatment of African asylum seekers. Tyla presents a glitch in the matrix. As a female, her presence is deemed less threatening because women are viewed as conquerable, trophies of an empire, in this case global capitalism's, rather than conquerors like fit, able-bodied men are. Secondly, Tyla's music can come across as being as full of culture as a Thai restaurant in Budapest. Yes, it will have traces of flavors indicating its origin, but it won't be spicy enough to turn off customers from Hungary, nor will its only consumers be expats who occasionally want a taste of home. As I'm writing this, I'm listening to her debut self-titled album and can attest that many of the songs jam, but nothing sticks out to me as authentically African other than the innovative drum pattern syncopation, and nothing said is so thick in cultural milieu that it is indecipherable by my ears. It's an Ashanti or Carrie Hilson album with South African flair. But my predictions about Tyla after seeing the Water video came to fruition. Her album came out in March 2024 and became the highest-selling album for any African female soloist in the United States. It didn't top the charts of any market outside of her home country, but it did make a strong showing on many. It has undoubtedly sold at least 1 million copies so far and has been streamed and pirated tens of millions of times. She will almost certainly continue her artistic and financial ascent if she continues on this trajectory, and I wish her the best as her words and actions so far have caused no offense to me. But there is no rise to the top without controversy, and Tyla has courted that over the course of her brief stay in the limelight. The first one that I remember was the debate about the way she was shaking her rump in the water video. Was it twerking or not? I know I run the risk of making myself seem like a perennially online geek, but being an online English teacher could not be done without scrolling through Black Twitter while the other half of the screen has students completing a writing assignment. Essentially, what we call twerking stateside is called something else in South Africa, and Tyla's refusal to label her dancing as such perturbed many on Shea Butter Twitter. To summarize the arguments on both sides, Tyla and her defenders believe that their cultural practices do not have to be defined by American terms, and what they do is distinct enough to warrant another definition. The detractors of this point of view would say that many of the facets of Tyla's music and presentation mimics that of successful Black American female R&B stars like Beyonce or Aaliyah, so she cannot simultaneously copy-paste our aesthetic and movements but label it something else. Doing so is equivalent to cultural theft and comes across as if she is trying to sell our own water back to us while hinting that our wells are polluted. In a perverse way, it is a type of Negro philophobia perpetuated by a Black adjacent person. I respected Tyla for holding her ground, and from my recollection, not letting the kerfuffle explode into something worse by overreacting, but I've never given much thought on my stance on this issue until I started penning this piece. I believe it is important I do, since this controversy is similar to the bigger one coming later. I think perception of an object or act is important, and how people perceive things can be different in various cultures. What's called twerking in the US might be called something else different in African nations, or might be totally undefined because the act is not universally done. Do you think the Egyptian mommies throw that ass in a circle? But I suppose what anything means comes down to who has the power to define it. While the English language doesn't have one per se, unless you were to count Webster's dictionary, many nations like France and Spain have vested legal authority into institutions whose sole purpose is to police the language, translating English words like CD-ROM or website into their exact counterparts to prevent bastardization and English's encroachment. While their labor might seem frivolous, since Spaniards and Frenchmen, young and old, both say Facebook, it doesn't change the fact that the power to define was given to an authority, and in any legal document that Frenchman or Spaniard might have to write the approved translated word. Power does not have to be ordained, seeing as how the word nigger is legal to use in the United States under First Amendment protection, but social conditioning and brothers willing to throw hands sort of relegate its acceptable use to a subset of society, but it is there nonetheless. When it comes to twerking, it was almost certainly a dance style prevalent in Africa for hundreds of years, but Black Americans were the ones to popularize it through our cultural hegemony, recognized or not, in the USA, a country with a mass media influence that spans the globe. It is very likely that if there was an Egyptian wedding and the DJ played some Juvenile, if the Fatmas there decided to back that ass up, even playfully or shyly for a brief moment, someone might say those ladies were quote-unquote twerking, if there were no indigenous Arabic words to describe it. That's not forced, that's just a byproduct of American cultural influence and the spread of Black American art. That brings us to the main controversy today. Tyla went on the Notorious Breakfast Club, and when Charlemagne asked her if she identifies with being Black or colored, a term used now almost exclusively in South Africa, she froze, and her publicist, who was off camera, spoke up for Tyla and demanded that they move on to the next question. Charlemagne laughed because he knew he had a viral moment, and Tyla continued the interview without any hint of distress. As the clip went viral subsequently, it sparked a diaspora war among online commentators. Tyla responded via a captioned post on her social media that professed her multiracial identity while also not denying her obvious Blackness. I'm colored in South Africa, but Black in the world, but in me I feel like I am many different things, is paraphrasing what she said. Now, I am no expert on South Africa's history of apartheid and how coloreds, light-skinned Blacks who were the products of rape by European settlers in South Africa, were treated then or are viewed now. However, I have a strong presumption that the coloreds only received marginally better treatment from the oppressive white power structure, and any benefits their community claims to have gotten were only psychic. We have to remember that forced breeding with indigenous peoples was a tactic used by the white supremacists supremacists during the colonial era as a means of dividing and conquering the people and a way to absorb them into the new dominant society. While in the US, we had the one-drop rule where any amount of black blood excluded that person from power and privilege. Please keep in mind that this was the exception and not the rule, as Brazil, the Dominican Republic, Australia, and many other post-colonial nations can demonstrate. You might be surprised by what I'll say next if you've known me for a while, or if my speech so far has made me seem like a black nationalist radical. But I'm actually proud of Tyla and supportive of her because I am a proponent of race abolition. Race abolitionism is not the same as colored blindness, the banal, let's not focus on race so much, guys. It's about destroying whiteness as a concept, eliminating the myths of racial differences that the white supremacists created centuries ago and continue to perpetuate. Only when we eliminate whiteness and white supremacy can we actually be our full human selves. Until then, we will be forced to be categorized, stereotyped, and caricatured, made to pick a side. What Tyla is saying by acknowledging all facets of her is all at once a triumph and a tragedy. She is a glimpse into our possible future as a post-white world where a person of her complexion and diverse lineage is able to define herself however she wants on her terms, a good thing. Yet she is still a commodity in current white supremacist global capitalism where race does matter, and try as she may to be everything to everyone all at once, she must pick a side for people like boxes. A bad thing. In South Africa, being colored might mean something, but in the global village where everyone eats KFC, wears Levi 501s, and has seen at least one season of Friends on Netflix, I'm sorry, soon-to-be international superstar, but you're black. That's not our choice either. That is defined by those who have the power to do so. See, in this essay, I skipped speaking about how the word colored has become a slur in American English, or trying to convince you Tyla's admixture makes her black, nor did I do any research on the history of the colored people in South Africa. Why? Because it doesn't matter. Before Tyla even opened up the discussion, as soon as she was born, the dominant white society globally decided she was black due to her distance from whiteness. Sure, she might have a little Dutch or Welsh here, or have a full-blooded Indian parent, but her presentation to the world already put her in the box with a lot of us. There isn't a white person alive who would look at Tyla and say she is white, and there is only a sliver of a minority who would not categorize her as black African upon learning about her parentage and nationality. So what does it matter? As Tyla performs Water in front of a sea of mostly white faces, the eyes looking back at her will see a dancing melanated black girl with cornrow braid extensions and gel finger wave edges. Tyla might be shrugging, sighing, or laughing all the way to the bank as the controversy over her racial identity keeps her name buzzing. But when she is all alone, I wonder if it ever vexes her mind that her rich, multi-layered identity, personally and genetically, is just summed up as black. Does it bother her that the world will see her as a black woman artist first, and that she is powerless to do anything about that? I ask because I have had similar thoughts when alone in my mind, and I'm not an international superstar. The psychic terror of being black is knowing you're in an upside-down world, but being powerless to turn it right side up. Tyla's terror is that in her quest to succeed in getting out her art, she will be powerless as the waves of labels crash down on her like water. So I'll ask the question again to my audience. Who defines who is and isn't black? In my opinion, it damn sure isn't us. Signing out, for our people, Simon Hill.